You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So Tennessee starting quarterback Nico Iamaleava is entering the spring transfer portal. Should be noted that the spring transfer portal does not officially open until Thursday, April 16th. If you're unfamiliar with the situation, I will give you the Cliff Notes version. It's happened very quickly over the past few days. Essentially, Nico at Tennessee, the starting quarterback last year, wanted a raise from Tennessee in his contract. And Tennessee was holding firm saying, no, we're not going to give you a raise, or we're not going to give you what you are asking for. There's a ton of numbers that are being floated out there, verified reports, but that's the Cliff Notes version of what's going on. So the two sides could not come to an agreement, and I highly doubt there's going to be that come to Jesus moment where Nico and Tennessee make up and he's their starting quarterback next year for the Volunteers. And it's because Nico skipped practice on Friday, and Tennessee did not like that. And as a result, they're cutting bait. Nico's moving on. That's the situation. That's the Cliff Notes version of what's going on with Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee. He immediately becomes one of, if not the top players in the spring transfer portal. Why is this important to Syracuse? All right. It's very simple. Syracuse is playing Tennessee week 1 in Atlanta. How about that? And now, who's their starting quarterback? Because Nico Iamaleava, there are mixed opinions about him. Some say he's good, he's developing. Some say he's not very good. He struggled last year against top competition. All fair and valid points. But here's the reality. He is a former 5-star recruit in the class of 2023. He was one of the top players overall in the country. 2024 was his first full season as a starting quarterback. He played 13 games. He completed 64% of his passes, about 3,000 combined passing and rushing yards, 22 total touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So the numbers say he had a pretty decent year over at Tennessee. And we did a podcast in January talking about the quarterbacks that Syracuse is scheduled to face this upcoming season. And little did we know that Nico was going to enter the transfer portal. I don't think that was on anyone's radar at the time. It's important also because Nico was one of the Heisman frontrunners, or one of the Heisman favorites. That's what the odds makers were saying in their way too early lists. And obviously they're way too early, but he was, I think, top 5 over on FanDuel when we were going over all the quarterbacks they were going to face, because it's reasonable to assume that he's going to get better with another full year of starting, right? So now Tennessee's not going to have him in week 1 against Syracuse. I'm not going to sit here and proclaim that the game just got a whole lot easier. I'm not going to do that, because we'll talk about it coming up just in a second. Tennessee still has some pretty capable backup quarterbacks, and I would not be surprised if they go in the spring transfer portal window. So, who is going to replace Nico Iamaleava for Tennessee and face the Syracuse Orange in Atlanta for week 1 of the college football season? Number 1, I just said it, they could get a quarterback in the spring portal. Spring portal opens up on Thursday, and I would not be surprised if a top quarterback becomes available if Tennessee started sniffing around. Wouldn't be surprised. It's reasonable to assume all that money that they were going to spend on Nico Iamaleava for this upcoming season, well, now they have it, so maybe a quarterback becomes available and they decide to use it on him. We'll just have to monitor it over the coming days and weeks. Number 2, and I think for now it's the more likely option because we don't know the other quarterbacks that are really going to be available in the spring portal, is they stay in-house. They have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on their roster right now, Jake Merklinger, a redshirt freshman, and George MacIntyre, a true freshman. Merklinger was a 4-star recruit in 2024 who threw 9 passes last season for Tennessee, and MacIntyre is a 4-star recruit in the 2025 recruiting class. So regardless of who wins the Tennessee quarterback battle, it's probably going to be Merklinger, given that he was at Tennessee a year ago. Syracuse is still going to face a talented 4-star quarterback. That's the reason why I'm not coming on here saying, oh, this game just got a whole lot easier, because it's Tennessee and they still recruit talent. The only, I guess, advantage for Syracuse now that they are getting is that in week 1, they are no longer going to face a experienced starting quarterback, one that's already played a full season in Tennessee, already knows the system, and has a reasonable chance of getting that much better in 2025 compared to 2024. Because again, Nico is a former 5-star quarterback who maybe was up and down his first full season of starting, but would it shock anyone if he got much better in his second full year starting? It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if he goes somewhere else and puts up great numbers, has a fantastic year, and declares for the NFL draft and goes in the top 10. Like, that's on the table for Nico Iamaleava. It is. So that's the advantage, I guess. They're not going to play an experienced starting quarterback anymore. It's kind of leveling the playing field. I've talked about it with Ricky Collins, who's going to start for Syracuse in week 1, how he's never started a game in college. Never. Well, now it's probably going to be the same thing with Tennessee unless they decide to get one in the spring portal, which we cannot rule out.